Hello and welcome to Stand-Up World 76. We have an excellent episode for you. And as historians know, most of the great podcast episodes throughout the centuries were the 76th episode. It's very important to keep in mind as you listen to today's show. You will forgive some of the inaccuracies, some of the stupid references, and the jokes that I make that don't hit when you go, it's a historic episode. Please welcome the producer of the show, the extraordinary Kaylee Zelig.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Kaylee. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm skating through. I'm running uphill, but I'm here. I'm here today. It's all good. And, you know, I can only go to so many Kamala rallies in one day, you know, but I'm hitting them all.
Good for you.
I'm hitting them all. I'm, you know, Jewish dudes for Kamala, Jew dudes for Kamala, Jew bastards for Kamala. No, I'm doing good. And we have an excellent show because we have my buddy from Detroit, another Detroit comic. Not a buddy of mine from when I was in Detroit because he's a lot younger than me. But we both started at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, so we got that going for us. And we're Detroiters, and he's a funny guy. He's got his own show on YouTube and plays called Normal World. His name is Dave Landau, right?
That's right, Dave Landau.
I did something right. Let's go. Bring him on. Dave Landau.
Now, David Landau.
Mike,
You're from Britain. You're British, right?
Correct. I'm from England. Grew up in Great Britain, specifically the greater part of Britain.
Yeah. I've never visited there. I've been to mediocre Britain, and I have to tell you, it's tough. But Great Britain, I heard, is beautiful.
It's a nice area. You know, we do get some Cockney accents in there every now and then, but we sweep them out real quick. We're mostly Islamic now. But other than that,
you played over there?
No, I was supposed to play actually in London last year, and it ended up getting canceled a couple weeks out because there were some issues with the venue.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. I was excited about it.
I'll tell you, I used to play there when I was a kid. And then when I stopped all those years, I didn't know. And I'll tell you, because when I was playing as a kid, a lot of things would just, they did not get the gestures or the references. But I was over there maybe a month or two into starting working out again. And I played this great club called Top Secret Comedy Club, which is still one of my favorite comedy clubs in anywhere. It's in the basement, and it's in blanking on what the name of that part of town is, but it's just beautiful. But they got every joke, everything, and it was great. It was just so great to know that the world has gotten small enough that everything works. You know,
I imagine that they get American culture all the time. We get English culture. Yeah, it's got to be nice as opposed to doing it like the 80s where no one has a clue what you're talking about. You're saying 6 feet, and they're just like, no.
Yeah. No, it's great though. It was funny because I went on stage the night the Queen she went into like a coma, and they knew she was about to die. You know?
Yeah.
And then at about 4 PM, she died. And
what time was your show?
About 8 o'clock.
Okay. Well, at least you had 4 hours for them to grieve.
Well, the funny thing was, a lot of places shut down, and I thought, well, they're going to cancel the show, and they didn't cancel the show. And it was packed. And I don't know what, maybe I went on stage and go, hey, I'm really sorry about your Queen. Can I make some jokes? Is that going to offend you as an American? And I got this huge, unanimous applause of go for it. And I was just like, hey, doesn't it bother anybody that King Charles was the last guy in the room with her? And she was fine before that? It's like, Mommy, it's time. Smell this pillow. It's over. It's over. I can't wait any longer. And I was just doing the coldest joke, the easiest, but they were loving it. They were just 4 hours later.
Well, I mean, it's vengeance too. She did kill his wife. So, I mean, it's only fair that he comes back later. We know she snuffed out Diana.
Yeah. But no, they loved her, but there was not a hint of too soon in the air, you know?
Yeah.
And by the way, the days after and before, there were mourning, and there were, you know, people packed in front of the palace. They obviously loved her, but they were like, "Hey, man, let's laugh. I respected them for it.
I know, it's incredible. I mean, they actually have respect for people who they consider, you know, their hierarchy or leaders, and we get what we get in our country. They shoot a guy running, and they try to cover it up, and then there's other people running, and they don't let them have security.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And you know, I made a Trump joke that night, and someone said too soon, and I said to make a joke, and they said no, to try again. I mean, nobody cared. I mean, you know, everyone said, I was just reading someone said that Trump was supposed to get a bump, some kind of in the polls, or be able to, it didn't last 4 days, you know?
It's strange though, because like all of a sudden you're pulling out Kamala, who they've been hiding like in an attic like Anne Frank for the last 4 years, and then they just drag her down and go like, no, it's cool, like she's been our girl the whole time, and it's like, no, she wasn't. You hated her until 2 weeks ago.
You said she had leprosy. You told us no. You told no one to touch her, and now all of a sudden,
and then you see. But I mean, she's doing some good speeches. We saw Megan Thee Stallion twerk last night for her. It's good. It's good. We're not at all spiraling towards the apocalypse.
Well, you know what I love? And Rogan said it. Rogan, when Rogan is on, he's so right. He just said, she's probably going to win because they have no shame. They just, and people are so easily manipulated right now. They went from, she's the dumbest vice president before the creation of vice presidents. People before her there was no one even that dumb. That's how dumb she is. She's goes way back in history. Everybody said no one's ever been this stupid anywhere near power.
Right.
And the next day, she's like, she's goddamn good. I got to tell you, we are lucky to have her.
Yeah, it's very good. She's going to be the first Black, Asian, female, possibly Cuban. We're not really sure. She's a mix of a whole bundle of stuff. It's going to fill a lot of DEI requirements, though. Yeah. We're happy to have her. And then you had Men for Kamala, the conference last night. Yeah. And which is just like, what the hell are you doing? Why? Like, just stop pretending that you cared about her.
White dudes for
Kamala.
Yeah.
Which sounds great. Like, white dudes for anybody always seems to be a problem.
Well, we wanted to have a white dude for Kennedy. We wanted to have a white dudes for Kennedy. But it got shut down pretty quick.
Because it worked out so well several times.
Yeah. But I'll tell you the funny thing is today, and I just happened to see it. I don't know. I saw a clip, I guess. And Trump, went on a Trumpy thing, where he was talking about Kamala and said, she was Indian and she was this and then she's that. And then all of a sudden, I don't know when she became Black, right?
Yeah.
And now, and then I just, all the headlines are, Trump asked when Kamala became Black. It's the most racist thing they've ever heard, as if someone has to become Black. And they knew exactly what he was saying. You know, it's
right.
they
spew it. It's not even the most racist thing you've heard him say. It's not even the most, and it's certainly not the most racist thing you've heard Joe Biden say.
It's not even the racist thing I've heard myself say.
Right. Joe Biden's the one that basically looked at Obama and was like, he's an exceptionally well-spoken, well-dressed, one of those. Very clean, very bagger Vance. Like the way that he would talk about black people is horrible. And then everybody pretended that didn't happen. And then everybody pretended that he wasn't dying for the last 4 years. And then all of a sudden, they agreed that he was sick. That's what I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Trump gets shot in the ear, and all of a sudden Joe's like, "Oh, you're right. I got COVID. I better go." Just leaves. Everybody agreed.
That's right.
It's the series of events is insane.
I scraped my knee yesterday, and I can't run the country. Not in 4 years.
I would never want to run the country now. Could you imagine uniting people that can never be? I don't think we can be united.
No, but it was what Joe was saying. People on both sides they're so easily manipulated right now. You can just tell them. I mean, I will tell you, it's like, I don't know. Trump said something, and I thought, why does he keep this up? Why does he keep saying the same damn lie over and over and over again when it doesn't help him? But they do. They get locked into these lines and they just stay with them. And I think what they find is that repetition matters.
Well, I think that's anybody who's lying in politics. That's the idea. Say anything until people believe it. I mean, that's cult leaders. That's anybody. Yeah. When you look at that in politics, whatever side you're on at this point, we've used each side so much as propaganda. Like the fact that they were able to take Kamala out and make everybody start wearing her shirts and dancing around and saying she's the best in a matter of minutes is alarming. It's like, it's beyond brainwashed. It's just, you're being fueled this into your head. So depending on what side you're on, that's what's going to play to you all the time. It's very hard for you to have any sort of middle ground. And then that people call you a fence sitter, or you don't believe in, I think it's tragic because you just want to have an honest opinion about any side or open opinion about any side. And people just want to rah-rah their own team, and they never want to hear anything negative about either one. Like they never want to hear anything against them. And if you are, they will call you the most simplistic terms.
I understand it. I'll be honest with you. I put my heart and soul into the Kennedy thing, and
yeah,
he's my friend for a long time. But if someone tells me something janky about him or he's got a brain worm, I'll make a joke about it. But if they're trying to be serious about it, I'm like, the brain was, that was back when he was in Bangladesh and he was trying to help poor people. And, how many times they got to bring that out? You do get defensive and you do. We're all in some cult or another. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and he also said he had the brain worm. It's not like they outed him.
No.
He brought it up.
But I just mean they're whenever somebody goes after somebody who you support, it's
of course
it's that. But to me, for comedy, like I've been doing bits on Biden and Trump and Bobby, everybody. I just like to get laughs, and I wish that repetition thing would work, so I could just tell the same joke like 8 times in a row, and eventually they'd be brainwashed. I think it was funny as hell.
Just never try. It seems to work. There's got to be a recipe to it. You could try cult leading. I mean, people are that you really just need a certain amount of sheep. And then all of a sudden you're castrating yourself wearing matching Nikes and waiting for a comet. It doesn't take much.
With it, Dave, is if you don't have a lot of sheep and you can be really good at it and you're just a sheep fucker. Okay?
Well, that's true. But as long as some say if you have one sheep that loves you, that's all that matters.
It's true.
Or at least one sheep you can love. Either way.
But I don't know.
or a friend to hold your sheep. There's a lot of things about sheep.
We're in the crazy season, but it's fun. That's one of the things I love about being back in stand-up. And I don't know about you, but I find audiences, they're open to hearing it. You know, they don't want to be lectured, and they don't want to hear the Mort Saul version of political comedy. You know, with the newspaper and here's it. They want jokes. If they know that I'm joking around and I'm teasing Biden, then I'm teasing Trump, then I'm doing this, then they love it.
I feel like I want to do a character once a week that goes on stage and reads a newspaper just to surprise people, just because they won't know what it is, and then just go off on the topics. Yeah, just like Mort Saul or David Brenner.
Yeah,
the two that used to do it. But make sure to not do it well at all. Just sort of read it and be like, come on.
David Brenner had one of my favorite jokes ever. He said he was sitting on the subway, and a guy comes up to him and goes, "That paper you're sitting on, are you reading it?" And he went, "Yeah." And he stood up, and I turned the page, and I sat back down.
That's solid.
Are you reading it? It was such a great joke.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Yeah.
He was good at that, though.
Oh, he was great. He was great. Yeah. But the funny thing I was going to tell you is I wish I know where I saw it, but I saw this great picture of all these people on a subway, and everybody's staring at an iPad or or an iPhone.
Yeah.
And then it says, "What happened to us?" And then right next to it, there's an old black and white picture of everybody in a subway, and everyone's face is buried in a newspaper.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same thing. We've been doing this shit forever.
I remember the first day I was in New York, the only thing that shocked me was everybody was staring at their phone, and Spider-Man was crawling on the ceiling of the subway, and no one cared at all. And I was like, nothing? Like, no, I'm recording it. I was so amazed by the fact that he could crawl on the ceiling and no one cared. And he got $2 for that.
Wow.
But we're just so jaded, though, that the idea, like, if my son was with me, sure, I'd hold him tighter. But
you got laugh at Taylor.
Yeah, I'd still be like, "Hey, we got to see Spider-Man today. That's pretty awesome."
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But you do a lot of political stuff, but not too much, right?
I do, and I don't. I mean, my show's on a political network, so, and I've had Bobby on my show, and so
you had Bobby on your show.
He called in. Yeah, really? I'd like to have him on. Yeah, but he called in.
I didn't know that. I was with you. I was with you.
Yeah, I think. Well, you're the reason he did, so I appreciate it.
He'd come on your show. Just have him ask him to come on your show.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, I'd like to talk to him because he has so much to say. We have a lot in common in a lot of ways when I talk to him, and I think that the stuff that I talk about politically is I'm just kind of shocked by the way that things are covered up. The news moves quickly. And I don't even know if it's so much a cover-up as things are just, I don't want to say apathy.
Hold on, I'm calling.
I thought it was a bit.
I got the voice. He says, "Can I call you later?"
Say no. Be like, no.
Hey, I'm on the phone with Dave Landau. He's on my podcast, and we are bad-mouthing you like you've never been bad-mouthed.
It's crazy.
Well, okay, actually, you have been. You, of all people, I could say. But anyway, trying to go. Okay, bye. But no, he would love to go on your show. I'm telling you, he loves you.
Yeah, feelings mutual.
Hey, what else could?
Well, with him too, like I you know, he wasn't offered the Democratic ticket, which, I mean, I get not taking it completely, you know, obviously. I don't know if he is or isn't or wasn't, but I totally get him not taking it and being independent. But it just seems like so much more could be done with him in there than the amount. I don't know. There's just too much happening right now for it to make any sense to me.
Well, it's crazy, but he tried. Believe me, he tried to run as a Democrat, and they wouldn't even put him in any of the primaries.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
So, but no, I know that. I have to tell you, I was asking you about what kind of stuff he did, but to me, some of my favorite stuff of yours, and it also hits me the most. Growing up in Detroit, look, there's a bit that I found of yours. I want to play it. Like, can you and your brother go to White Castle?
Yeah.
Can I just play this real quick?
Sure.
In high school, you could get in trouble being a designated driver. My brother and I were 16. He was hammered drunk at a party, and I didn't want to bring him home wasted. So I'm like, all right, let's go to a White Castle. It was on 8 Mile in Detroit. High-end area, great restaurant. And we ordered a crave case, which is a cardboard briefcase filled with hamburgers. And as we're pulling out, my very drunk brother notices a prostitute, a streetwalker. So he just starts hucking cheeseburgers at her. Which is hilarious when you're a teenager. Just hanging out the window. How much for a hand job, bitch? Pam. And I was crying laughing. Right up until she pulled out her badge. It was an undercover cop. And we had just interrupted a sting operation. If you could have seen the look on my dad's face when the prosecuting attorney read, "Would you blow us both for extra cheese?" I'm proud of you, kids. We got arrested for soliciting sex. Get this, we got all the charges dropped because Cheeseburgers went thrown hilariously. It's not technically offering trade or currency. How's that? Have a good night, everybody.
Yes.
And I love it because it's got to be so true, right? You know, it's just
Yeah, no, it's
great.
completely
And I also know that White Castle at 8 Mile and Woodward, right?
Yeah, no, it's close.
Oh, wait. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Good. I'm talking to Dave Landau. He's on my podcast right now. I just told him that you would do his podcast. He said, "Yeah, I'd love." Did you hear that?
Yes, awesome. I'm gonna hit him up. Thank you.
We just played the funniest bit that he does about him and his brother getting a case of White Castle hamburgers in Detroit, and they're drunk when they're kids, and they're throwing it at some prostitute, and she's got a badge. She arrests them. It's a crazy bit.
The kind of endorse.
All right, cool. You doing well? All right. I just want to hook you guys up, man, because he was actually telling me, he goes, "Yeah, Bobby called into my show once." I go, "Yeah, I know, I was on it." But so it's all. I'd love to do a show. Okay, cool. Call me later, though. Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah. All right. Cool. You're in. I knew he would.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
That's great. The other bit, and I couldn't find it again. I had it, and I couldn't find it again. It was a bit about you and some going to a crack house downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
And
I got a few of them. I wish I could.
But what you gotta understand is, and I'm probably 15 years older than you or something. I don't know. You know?
I'm there.
But we did the same shit.
I hope older.
I hope.
He hopes he's older.
No.
I mean, he hopes you're older.
Yeah.
At least.
If I'm that older, you better get rid of, have a blood test done tomorrow.
Oh no, I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to be making it forever. And by forever, I mean mid-60s. I'm aware that I'm aware of what I look like.
But
this
anyway,
is 20 years of road.
Yeah, you look fine. But I all that story. Me and my friends, we used to get in so much trouble downtown Detroit, and is that
my parrot or yours?
Is that what? Okay. That's actually just a neighbor because the weirdest voice.
I think her husband's choking her. Can never tell if she likes it.
Yeah, no, she likes it. That's the good sign.
That's the good squeal.
When she doesn't like it, it sounds like a walrus is dying.
Yeah.
But so we go down, me and some friends, and I don't even know what, we were so messed up. And there was this guy, we had gotten in trouble with this guy, a pimp, right?
Yeah.
Because we were doing the same thing, just teasing the girls. And we were 17 years old, 16 years old, and just having fun. I mean, in the middle of the night, we saw his house, right?
Yeah.
And we messed his car up.
Oh, no.
No.
A pimp's car?
Yeah. And he came running out with a gun, and we just took off.
What kind of caddy was it?
It was a beautiful one. It wasn't when we got
yeah.
Anyway, he had chased a friend of mine down the block with a knife. It was a long story. But anyway, here's the crazy part of the story is years later, I did this movie, this Touchstone movie with crossing the bridge. You know?
Yeah, about going over to Canada and drinking. I've seen it. One of the Baldwins is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot because I relate to it so much.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
So I'm there. We were shooting some second unit stuff in Detroit, and in this morning shot of the Ambassador Bridge, just a small crew with line producer and stuff. And I said, "Did I tell you this story?"
No.
We drove down by what used to be Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
Briggs Stadium, right? And I said, and I wanted to show him the house that we almost got killed at.
Yeah.
And because we were driving late at night scouting because we had to be there to get this sunup shot at 5 a.m, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like 4 a.m. the night before. So as we pull on the street to I want to show him this house. There's a house 2 doors down on fire. But nobody, it's fast asleep and just like the side porch is blazing on fire. So, and I said, there's people in there sleeping. And they don't know it.
Oh, yeah.
So I go, we got to go in and we got to wake them up. And this is before, this must have been like 1989, 90, something like that. You know, people didn't have we didn't have cell phones, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so my I'm getting out of here and knocking on that door. We got up and knocked on the door, banging up. Finally, what the fuck do you want? What? I go, hey, you better get out here right now. You better get right the hell out here. Your house is on fire. And he goes, you could tell he just didn't believe me. He thought, okay, this is, and this guy comes running out finally, and he looks, and then before he knows it, there's like 15 family members come running out of that house.
Oh yeah,
it was crazy.
You saved all of them.
Absolutely, we absolutely saved them, and he knew it too. The guy knew it. You know, he just, and I wanted to go. You know, it's so funny because like 15, 20 years ago, you know, your neighbor, he almost killed me and I ruined his car. But I didn't go into that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, even then, though, I'm sure if they would have called the police, they would have been like, what neighborhood? Yeah, we'll be there in 2 Thursdays from now. I hope everything's all right.
there wasn't time. There wasn't time to call it. The house, by the time everybody got out of the house was gone. Dude. It was a smolder, you know?
Dude, you're lucky. Dude, they're lucky. I mean, you saved 15 people, man.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And he was so mad at first when I was, but and the only reason I was there was kind of like to show off of this craziness I had when I was a teenager.
And then you proved it.
Yeah. Man, when you do those bits about Detroit, they're so real to me, you know. I mean,
well, that's what I love. Like, I mean, there was just such a freedom in that era, you know. And I had a drug problem and everything, and I had my issues with alcoholism, and I've been sober for a long time. 13 arrests does that to you, but you sort of, it was always like, I can't pretend every night was bad or anything. Like, I enjoyed going down 8 Mile, and I enjoyed, even when we were arrested, it was actually 3 of us. I just kept one out of the story for the sake of the story. But yeah, I mean, my brother's throwing cheeseburgers at a streetwalker, and then all of a sudden we're surrounded by police, and it's like, oh, we're all going to jail, and we got charged with solicitation, which thank God it wasn't underage drinking, because they couldn't really prove the solicitation. And thank God Detroit was so rough at the time on the east side, they weren't going to put you into actual jail for that. Like,
well, I'm surprised they didn't, because when we were doing it, Detroit was so rough. They would just look at us and go, because we were in Royal Oak and Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
They look at us and go, get back up there. Get back up.
That's what I mean.
We don't got time for it. You know?
Yeah, most of the time, if they ever caught you, it was rare anybody got arrested. And they could arrest you on a dope street or stop you on a dope street. And it was usually, what'd you buy? And you'd pull out like a dime bag, and they'd go dump it out. And then you'd get back in the car, and you'd have the other 4 you bought. And you'd go back to your house. I mean, I even remember crossing the Ambassador Bridge once. We had an ounce of shrooms in a McDonald's bag. And we got stopped. And we're like, oh, we're all going to go to Canadian prison, which at the time would have been more friendly. I don't know about now.
No,
it's okay. So, like, because we're surrounded by these cops, and we know they're going to find these drugs. And my friend just gets out, taking a risk, and grabs the McDonald's bag and just goes, hey, I'm done eating this. Can I throw it out, or do you want to check it out first? And the cop goes, no, you can throw it away, and throws away the ounce of mushrooms right in front of him. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, we were out on us of shrooms, but none of us went to prison. It was just like, all right, have a good one. We're all just here to drink.
I can't believe that cop fell for that.
He just did it so smoothly and quick that the cop was like, yeah, go ahead, it's fine. Like, he just thinking no kid would just hold up a bag of drugs. And we got so lucky.
We used to drive down there so crazy, and we used to go on the parking decks and take fire extinguishers and just spray them all around town. And the cops would pull us over and just say, get out of here. But the reason I knew about Canada is because we went over to Windsor one night, and we were driving wild in Windsor, and I just made some crazy right-hand turn trying to get away from some guy, and the cop pulled me over, and they arrested me for reckless driving and put me in jail, right? And I called my dad. It was late on a Saturday night. Woke him up maybe 4:30 on Saturday night, and they said, if you don't come bail me out now, I won't get out until Monday when the judge is here for an arraignment. And he said, well, you won't do that again, will you? And he said, see you Monday when you get out. And he left me in there, you know? And I was so pissed at him. But I've always thought it was the best thing in the world they ever did, because I spent all day Sunday and Sunday night in that little cell, and I thought, I'm never going to jail again. I'm not doing any jail shit.
No, it's a good feeling. And I mean, especially when you can keep that promise.
Yeah.
I remember saying that and then constantly not keeping that promise, but I tried, because every time feels pretty awful when you end up in a jail, and especially when your parents see you, like they try. But yeah, especially in a foreign jail, that's a little freaky. Even Canada.
Oh yeah. Oh no. But and listen, I spent another 20 years getting loaded and doing drugs. I just never got into selling drugs or anything like anything. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah.
I mean, I killed a couple hookers, but that was knew.
These are harmless crimes. These don't hurt anyone.
Well, not that they're harmless. That they're really hard to get caught for.
Well, I call them victimless crimes. I mean, you can consider a hooker a victim. That's on you. I just feel that you get out your aggression, and if I've given you $150, it's to rent your body for that amount of time.
And I do whatever I need to do with it.
Right. I like stabbing. That's just.
Nowadays you can actually pay extra and let them know there's going to be stabbing.
Yeah, that's true. Now it's like, can I choke you? We've gone just too far with what people want. We need to reel it back in. We need to go back. We need to be Amish and then slowly introduce porn again.
I totally agree with you. We have to unplug everything and start over.
Yes, we've ruined everything with the internet. I really, that's the problem is when you read the manifesto of the Unabomber. I'm trying to think of Ted Kaczynski.
Yes.
Yeah, he went to U of M. There you go, Michigan. But when you read it, it's like he had a lot of good points. It's just he should have not made so many nail bombs in the woods. Otherwise, pretty solid stuff in there. It was just how he got the attention. It's like perhaps you don't belong.
In other words, you're saying he probably had a lot of really good qualities.
He did. Like he was basically saying, I was there at the start of the internet. This is going to be the destruction of the world. I promise you, we need to stop this. And he's like, how should I go about letting everybody know? I'll just send in nail bombs that are pretty loose and can go off in the packaging. Not the best way to let people know that you're smart. But it turned out, he was a genius, not at making bombs, but a genius. But it's all in the execution. And I mean in the execution of what the point you're trying to make, not in the execution of the people you're accidentally killing with the nail bomb.
Absolutely.
I've always said that.
I agree. I totally agree. And I tell you, if you were around today, I think he'd probably have a show on Glenn Beck's network and not you.
I think he would. It would be the Kaczynski hour.
Okay.
just sitting there in like an orange jumper, just shaking.
There's one thing that when I heard him say, you just can't shave or bathe. That's the only thing we ask.
Yes, you just have to look exactly how we found you out in the woods after your brother ratted on you. And it'd be so weird for the brother to be like, I think this Unabomber's my brother. He matches every quality of a guy I know.
That's really funny. That's really funny. Well, look, I saw this thing the other day. The parents, it was the father and I guess the sister of the kid that was on the roof that shot Trump.
Yeah.
And the press is following them around, and you just want to go, hey, if that had been an inch more, you'd be celebrating me. So stop it. You're the press and you know damn well.
Yeah, you're the one that brainwashed the kid for the last 8 years to do this. You're going to sit there and chase after him and be like, oh, yeah. What happened to your kid? The parents should stop and be like, you did. You happened.
Yes.
You're the one that's been inciting violence between two parties for the last decade. That's what. It's your fault.
I'll tell you when I knew the world was crazy. I mean, I've known for a while, but I saw something about 2 weeks ago at the White House. They had like a new version of trans. This woman, beautiful hair, beautiful dress, gown, breasts, jewelry, and a big, thick beard. And I thought, pick a lane. Pick a lane. What is this? This is this guy's is a. We've gotten to the point where people don't. They just want to just go be everything. You identify as a Swiss Army knife. I don't know what it is you're doing, but and they're giving this guy like he was speaking at a podium in a room at the White House. He was like an important she. I'm sorry. She,
the person with the very thick woodsman beard.
I'm telling you, it was like, listen, even if someone does want to have sex with you, they're going to want to kill you when it's over. Okay?
Right.
Just, all right.
We know evidence of it.
But no, I'm not kidding you. This person I didn't quite understand, but was a very respected person. And that's where we're at. Which is fine, but it's like, and now the senator from Ohio is weird, you know?
Well, that's what's crazy is they're like J.D. Vance because he wrote this book and it's about, Appalachia and even stuff he experienced. And I didn't know much about J.D. Vance, and I knew he didn't like Trump at one point. And I looked into him. I know Ron Howard directed his movie, and it's like, yeah, so what's the problem? Like, what did he do? And then you're seeing pictures of everything else. He just seems, all right, maybe, like, I would love if he has such a deep moral feeling on healthcare, which has been such an issue in this country for so long, where people who desperately need it vote against their own interests because they're ignorant to the way that we can get this all to work. I don't think it'll ever work fully because I don't think that there's any way to get it to work in the way that people want, but there's a way to make it so much better. And I think if he actually has his finger on the pulse of that, then okay, let's talk about the potential of that. But instead they're like, isn't he weird? And you're like, what do you mean by weird? They're like, well, you know how we think we could turn, like if a child says they think they should be a girl and they're not, and we're okay with that operation. Not that kind of weird. He wears a suit.
No. He's like, well, he's a child who thought that he was having sex with a couch.
Yes.
And I thought, well, that's okay. I used to have sex with the refrigerator. And come on. I would rub up against anything. Have you ever heard of Louis C.K. or George Carlin's axe?
Yeah, when you're young, you've had sex with literally everything. Absolutely. And now, like, I think the trans thing is real. The part of it, though, is I also think it's a fad to a lot of people to get likes because we're vapid. And we need something to go like, oh, is that how you get attention? Okay, we'll do that. Because there's so much cosmetic surgery now on women where I'm like, oh, is that a trans person? And they're like, no, it's a woman. She was born like that. And I'm like, oh, why would you put that much shit on you to make, like, it's just the lips are done, breasts, you have a brand new ass, everything. Like, if you have that much cosmetic surgery at this point, I have to assume you were born a man.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, and I just think what you said, everybody has just been brainwashed and talked into that to just A, for clicks and attention, and B, that just do anything you want to do, anything you want to do, and it's I think you're right. I mean, we got to unplug and start over and just take buggies around, and
yes,
and just read the Bible to each other.
Yeah, for just a minute, just to start, we have to start very puritanical again, and then grow from that, maybe. Or because it's so strange, because America could be the result of being too puritanical on some level, and then taking it too far. But then you look at France and the opening games, and you look at all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what's what. Like, at this point, I don't know what's just designed to deliberately upset other people to get people talking, Yeah,
but also, and then I will say, then if you look at the very puritanical countries, the Iran or just any places that are just really religious, that's not helping them. So, The answer
if you're a woman, otherwise it's pretty good for us.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
like we're pretty pretty solid.
No. Hey, so how'd you get into stand-up?
Oh,
how did I get into it?
Yeah.
She didn't like the conversation.
Oh, you didn't want us to talk about it?
No, I'm okay with it. I mean, you guys can read the Bible to me because I won't be able to read it because I can't read.
I have one. Well, I would hope that you don't mind that it's a Quran, but that's either which way, you're not going to like the ending. I don't think.
That's fine.
It's good. It's pretty good. It's just long story short. There's ants inside a pig, so don't eat ham. All right. So where are we at?
How did you get into stand-up?
I was 19, and I joined Second City after my 5th year of high school. And right after that, I joined Second City. My dad was still alive at the time. He had been sick with brain cancer for several years. And that's kind of when I got into like partying and that sort of stuff. And I started going to Second City and doing writing and acting and that sort of thing.
Where is now the House of Detroit?
Yes, now House Comedy Detroit, but it was Second City for years, yeah. And then I was also taking film classes at Lansing Community College for a year. And then I started doing stand-up at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And my first day, he's like, you better come back. And I just kept coming back. And I just sort of fell in love with being a comic. And I was like, I'll just do this.
When was that?
My first set was around 2001, but I took it seriously in 2003.
Wow.
Yes.
And when you stayed in Detroit, were you able to get enough stage time to work up an act?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were tons of clubs then. I mean, there were urban clubs. There were, they had Holly Hotel. They had Chaplin's. They had Ridley's. They had Joey's. They had Joey's Dearborn. They had Coco's House of Comedy, Beast Comedy Kitchen, Leo's in Winter.
Beast Comedy Kitchen was there when I was there. I used to play that all the time. I love it.
Yeah, they had all those clubs. So you didn't have to really go anywhere. And then other people just had random one-nighters and then random just bar shows like Bart's, Club Bart and all that stuff. So I was constantly on stage. And I got very lucky because Ridley took me on early as a client and started getting me work. So I started working as like a feature and a headliner probably after about 6 months.
Wow.
Which
I never knew Mark managed people.
He only did for a few years. It was like me, J. Chris Newberg, John Heffron. But it was a very short amount of time he did it, but he did it for a few years.
Wow. But
it was cool though.
And so then you just like, at what point did you have like an hour that you could go headline?
The first time I headlined, I was about 6 months in and I did Joey's in Dearborn and I actually did it. I was very, very proud of myself because I didn't know if I could. But they said it's $700, and I was like, "You can make $700, all right," which was absurd to me in like 2004. And I went and did it and got paid, and it was fun. So I didn't feel comfortable on stage as a headliner for years after that. Finding my voice and going on the road, but I was still headlining.
Were you doing anybody when you started?
Sexually?
Yeah, no. Other than Ridley.
Doing what?
No, I just like
how you kind of impersonate somebody when you first go on stage. I definitely had influences, but the popular comic at the time was Dane Cook, and I'm very low energy. And I would always get compared a little bit to Norm, but I never was doing Norm, even though I really did admire him. But I definitely did a little bit of Dangerfield and a little bit of Attell. And no joke, Mark Ridley, my third time seeing me, goes, "Have you ever heard of Mike Binder? He was a comic who started here. You remind me of him. You should check out his stuff." And I believe at the time you were doing Mind of a Married Man. And that's, where I first started watching. And I was like, okay. And but that's what he said I reminded him most of when I was starting. And I think it was just maybe because, with the way we grew up or whatever it was, but that's what he saw.
Yeah. And I was blowing him at that time years ago too. So
Sure. Well, it's a succulent penis.
It's a famous penis in comedy.
Oh, it's one of the top 5.
I've actually just been in a donut shop late at night and met a guy. You're a comedian. Have you blown Mark Ridley? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, wow, you're a star? And you go, well, enough to be there, yeah.
No, actually, when I started, I was just doing Robert Klein and Woody Allen and then Jay Leno. In my head, I was trying to figure out my own thing on stage, and
it takes a while to find that voice to where you're comfortable just going, this is me, it's who I am. I want to tell my story. And I think your voice keeps growing. I think that's what's great about comedy is nobody's ever perfected it. So you always have to keep doing it and doing it. Whatever you do is not going to be for everybody. But when you first start, yeah, you definitely have some of your hero in you. And when I started, it was, so many people were doing Dane Cook and Mitch Hedberg. It was ridiculous because they were the biggest comics at that time. And you'd have like 3 people go up ahead of you wearing sunglasses on stage, just doing Hedberg lines. And it was aggravating. And I got lucky enough to where Ridley connected me to open for Stephen Wright and Dave Chappelle. And they were people that I worshiped. So it was kind of cool to see people that I'd always admired because I was a huge fan of film and comedy and everything anyway. So I was more into that where it was very easy for me to tell when somebody was doing a character. So I was desperately trying to find my own voice. But I think that's part of when you first start is learning a rhythm and a cadence and figuring out who you are.
Well, I think you're smart too. I just think you also knew instinctively to do that, but it became, I believe, somewhere maybe not long after that's what the audience really wanted to hear was authentic voices, because there was a period that was just ending then, not to cut anyone down at all, believe me, but like Emo Phillips and Judy Tenuta, and there were just a lot of characters, Carrot Top and Bobcat Goldthwait, people.
Bob Nelson.
People just
like
kind of like that. You could really bring the house down if you had a bigger than life character. And then I don't know. I think like Sarah Silverman and Chappelle and a few people just really kind of changed the meter.
Oh yeah, I think Patton Oswalt was in there,
yes.
And a little bit of Harlan Williams because he wasn't. He was who he was. It wasn't a character. It was a guy from his point of view. And I think what I find so fascinating about that comedy arc is Dangerfield was a character, but he was very much a real character. Like you really could empathize with with the character he chose to be, like the way he saw himself. But then you had Carlin, but you really had Pryor. And Pryor became this storyteller who almost couldn't write, but just could tell you the story. And it was incredible. And that became Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy was the same way, very much a storyteller, very relatable, related to your childhood. And that would grow into, you sort of had the Hicks, Bill Hicks, even like Ron Schock, Houston outlaw scene. And then that sort of became Sam Kinison, who was great. But then Sam Kinison kind of became a character. That's not a knock on him, but the media blew him into a character. He became this rock and roll comic guy and that was not as good as who he genuinely was. And I think he knew that. I think, that, and then that sort of blew up everything else, I think, because then you had Dennis Leary, who was just a character. And like you said, Emo was a character, and you have, like I watched a young comedian special a little while ago, and it was probably 6 people who were in full character. And then Richard Jenny comes out, and it's just a guy talking about his life, doing it entirely different than everybody else did it on the stage.
Yeah, he was amazing. And he was amazing. And he was so prolific, too.
Oh, yeah.
That guy just wrote so much material, and he was constantly doing new stuff. you know, and it was all just stuff about his life. It was just great, you know. And I do you know this guy? God, he was just on the podcast, Renan Hirschberg.
I don't know him personally. I've heard of him, but I don't know him personally.
He's really great. He's really great, really funny. He's a Jewish guy from Louisville, Kentucky. He lives in New York. And, you know, just Jewish guy from Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, I get it. You know? Yes,
yeah. You have your...
And you know, he has a lisp, you know, but it's just not... He doesn't have a character. He's just himself. But he's also... Right. He's such a great writer, you know? And he's also a big performer, you know? So he's kind of like a bit of a throwback to me, but I think he's great.
No, yeah, I've got to check out his stuff. I've seen his name around for a couple years now. And I remember he started at the Comedy Caravan in Louisville because that's where I first saw it. Like his posters and everything. So I know he's been around for a bit and I should look at that. But I love that. I love comedy that gives you a piece of somebody's life and you're just telling these stories. And that's why I have one-liners in my act. I have a lot of stuff that comes off, you know, it's like twist and whatever, but it's to keep their attention so I can really get into these various stories. But even those come from a very real place. And all the stuff that really involves the drugs, you know, arrests, but even marriage, my kid, all that stuff, like that's all very real. And I enjoy sharing that with an audience because
the goldfish in the toilet bit is great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. When I had to teach him about death. So I took him to the cemetery. Yeah. Yeah. Because we all experience that where you have to explain death to a child and it's an odd moment. And just little stuff like that, I think connects so well with an audience. I love doing it.
And how do you write? Do you write on stage or do you write off stage? What do you do?
I write a bit off stage, sketch and stuff like that. I write completely off stage, obviously. But with stand-up, I write the idea, or at least I remember the story that I'm going to tell because it's just life if it's a story. And then I remember the points I want to hit. And then I figure out the punchline on stage while I record it. Yeah. Because it's like a story I've told before at parties or whatever. And then if I'm writing jokes, I'll sit down and I'll just write several jokes in a row just for the practice of it. But for the most part, when it comes to storytelling and that, I do just kind of tell the story as is and see kind of what lands because I feel like there's this distance between when you're sitting at your house and then you go and put it on the stage where you're forgetting this energy and this feeling and the way the room is. And it's two very different animals. So by the time this thing that you think looks so great on paper actually ends up on stage, you know, it's really got this 50-50 at best survival rate. So I found just knowing the story and where I wanted to go, I could learn to start feeling it out better just by going up and doing it. So even if it didn't work as well the first time, I knew what to tweak the second time, third time, fourth time. And sometimes I'll be telling, you know, a story and I'll just think of new punchlines and add them. And, you know, it'll remind me of a new story that I forgot, you know, or my friend will remind me of a story. And it's fun that way. And it's more challenging to I don't know, to improvise a lot of those laughs because I think it's genuinely coming from you. And you've learned the cadence and you've learned who you are and you've learned how you get laughs. So it's fun to just go up there and kind of, you know, throw caution into the wind and just do it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I also, one of the things that I've learned, you know, Steve Wright used to tell me, and it's so much for him, makes sense. He'd say, try out a joke. If it works 3 times, he keeps it. And if it doesn't work 3 times, he gets rid of it, you know, because they're jokes. But for me, I don't do jokes, really. I got the same thing. I have some one-liners, but not a lot. And what I found is you got to stay with it. You got to stay with these pieces. You got to stay, even when you think it's okay. But if you stay with it, one night you'll just come up with a way to end it and a way to start it, a different way, you know, or you're just driving down the road and you'll rewrite it, you know. But I used to, when I was a kid and I was doing stand-up, I would give up on it. It didn't work a few times. I just throw it away, you know? And if I really think something's funny, I'll stay with it. I'll keep rewriting. I find that if you stay with it, man, you just never know what's going to be one of your best bits.
That's how I feel. And I get Stephen right with the one-liners and everything. It's just sometimes when you do that bit the first time, there's the excitement and the way you deliver it, so it lands. The second time you have too much confidence in it and it's not ready yet, so it doesn't. And then the third time it's going to be like, because you're somewhere in the middle, at least for me. Yeah. So you do kind of have to keep going with it, I think, because it's funny to you for a reason. It came to you for a reason, and it worked the first time for a reason. So, yeah, you do have to find that. And I mean, I think now more than ever, it is about connecting with an audience in more than just a basic laugh level. And that's one thing I do love about comedy is people kind of want to know the person, or at least because, I mean, there's got to be a relatability for people to want to hear you now. Yeah. You can't just really be, and there's so much comedy, and there's been so much comedy the last several years. Like, if I was writing in emo style, for example, I would assume that half the stuff I was writing had been written. But if I'm writing in my style about my life, then I know that it's not been told before.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I also I really believe it is writing and it is rewriting. And I never really saw it that way. You mentioned Attell. Attell rewrites like crazy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that, you know?
Attell will text you after a show and send you, hey, was this your bit? Was this your bit? And you're like, about an owl that wears glasses and is a drunk lawyer. And you're like, no, Dave, that's yours. Yeah. Like, he'll text you, you know, but he's the same way where he's always perfecting it. It's also why he's probably the best. He's one of the best, I'd say, top 5 comics ever.
Yeah.
And he's probably the greatest bar comic that's ever lived. And I mean that as a compliment. I mean, nobody can destroy a room the way that I've seen that guy in any situation.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. But so are you, buddy. I love you. I love your stuff. And like I said, I personally, I love it. I love all your stuff. I love your Detroit stories.
Thank you.
They really hit with me, you know, and I just feel like, and I don't know. I just feel like you're a few years behind me, but we kind of have very similar sense of humor, or we got in similar kinds of trouble.
Yes, we did. Yeah, both ways. And grew up in the same area where, just going into rough neighborhoods or over the border was just fascinating, and it was always fun.
Totally. Totally. So what do you got coming up? I mean, how often? By the way, I really had a good time doing your show.
Thank you.
How often do you do? How many you doing one every week?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I do a show.
You do 3 a week. Wow.
Yeah. It's and then we do that. We do some sketches in there, and then I tour, and then I go home for a couple days, come back, tour, go home, take a weekend off, tour, show, kind of nonstop. But it's something I just have to do right now at this point in my career, and it's not the easiest, but it's it's worth it.
And are you liking doing the show? I mean, you like?
I do. Yeah, I do. I want it to be. I'm very picky with everything I do involving that sort of stuff, and I just was sort of thrown into this when I became the third mic on the Artie Lang and Anthony Cumia show, and then I ended up on Crowder for a minute, and then I ended up here. So I just want it. I really wish I could just have a full-on sketch show, which is what the idea was. But the way that a lot of networks work is they want these podcasts, and you got to throw in the sketches and ad reads in certain ways. So, we make it work. But I guess, you can never. At least I haven't had the perfect show yet. But we're enjoying doing it. And we're trying to make it that.
Yeah, no, it looks like you're having fun with your buddy. What's his name? 1/4 Black or 3/4 Black?
Yeah, Quarter Black. Yeah, Quarter Black Garrett. And then, Angela's on there. And we just do news, bring people on. Some topics are a lot of pop culture stuff is mainly what we focus on.
It's fun. It's Normal World. It's on the Blaze, but they also catch it on YouTube too.
YouTube, yeah. Normal World is on YouTube Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights at 10, 9 Central.
Yep. And you're going to have Bobby Kennedy on soon. So
yes,
that's good.
And I don't know when this airs, but I'll be back August 8th through 10th at the Comedy Castle.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This will air right then, right? Yeah, this will be that week. So
awesome.
It'll come out right before that.
So I'll be there and in the hometown, which I love. And
I love that room. I love that room so much.
It's such a great club. I never played the other one that he had, like Ridley'S West or whatever it was on the other. I know it wasn't far from there, but that the first time I walked into stand-up, it was Ridley'S, and he had the hot dogs painted and looked super 80s, like Chaplin's did. Even in 2004 or 3, everything looked very 80s still in comedy. Yeah. So
I started with him. He was in a place called the Meeting Place out in Bloomfield Hills. I was his first headliner.
Really?
Yeah, it was. It was funny.
Yeah. Dave like you
was my middle act. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. You guys all started together right then. Yeah. That was like your crop.
Yeah, and Tim Allen would be hanging around all the time. Yeah, he was just getting started as a comedian.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you've all gone on, you've all done amazing things, all went to Hollywood. It's rare now because there's no way to figure out which way to go these days.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, when we're free to be you and me, we have the beard and the gown and the long hair and the jewelry, and we're doing our own thing.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Let's stay on the subject. The producer here.
I get lost easily.
I just like a good trans joke and a little political humor, and just then go right to the Bible, Dave. I don't like to get too serious.
Yeah, what keeps you in the middle?
Yes.
Yeah. I like when people do this. That's exciting for me.
When are you coming to LA?
What's that?
When are you coming to LA?
I want to come back. The last time I was there was last March. I was headlining the Ice House, and I need to get a new date there because that and the store with Tripoli, I did his big show. But I really need to come back to LA because
let me know, because I have two really nice Ice House gigs coming up. And I always do a regular Monday night at the Laugh Factory.
I would fly in just to do any of that. I miss LA. I really do.
We get great shows. Dane Cook, and just have a lot of good people. Arsenio's come in, and Howie, and I don't know. Like this week we got Erica Rhodes.
She's great. She's doing my show soon too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's great. Yeah, no, I'll talk her out of that. Believe me.
No.
Please do.
Okay. No,
it's a huge mistake. She's really skyrocketing. There's no reason.
I meant for you. I meant for you.
Yeah. Never mind.
Are you watching Star Wars?
I was going to tell him you can put it on mute. You can silence it.
Listen, I really appreciate you doing this.
It's my pleasure.
And like I say, let me know when you're coming out here, and stay in touch. And we'll be watching the show, and knock them dead. Really say hi to those guys for me.
I certainly will.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
And I don't have a really good way to close. I never know how to say goodbye, Dave.
It's all right.
If we were in person, I would kiss you. But
goodbyes are hard.
I know that.
You can do this.
Yeah, that thing I keep saying that I hate.
I think that's the first time I've ever done it.
I hate it so much. I'm a love, what do they call it? I'm a love activist. It's like, no, you're not.
No, my dad always taught me pimp or be pimped.
Yeah, well, he's right.
We'll close out with that.
I get pimped.
Her dad was a pimp. Okay.
Oh, Did you hurt his car?
Yes.
That's how you met.
Yep.
Love you, buddy.
All right.
Love
you,
Thanks,
sir.
Dave.
All right, that was good. That was good.
That was great. That was great.
We can't look. What happens when we look at each other? It doesn't work, and we're sitting right next to each other. It's the saddest thing in the world. We'll get this right one of these days. Hey, that was a great show. Dave Landau's a funny dude, isn't he?
Yeah, I love Dave Landau.
Yeah, I do too. He's great. And he's playing at the Comedy Castle this weekend. If you're down there in Detroit at the historic Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, go check him out. And check his show Normal World out on the Blaze. I hear he's going to have Bobby Kennedy on very soon. Robert Kennedy Jr. And that's it. Everything's good. You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm going to remember to put this up.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. See how fancy we are.
This is everywhere you can find us.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, X.
Stand-up world.
Substack.
We'll get there.
It's a long road, folks.
With me, it is.
Have a great week. Got a good show for you next week, too. Really good guest. Love you.